This is my final word on this topic. Is something you will never hear me say. Yesterday, I was watching a YouTube video of someone who, actually, it was a podcast of someone who was consulting the I Ching and explaining the procedure to someone else. And um, he said that the question needs to be phrased very carefully, and yeah, and you need to have a question, and that actually the question decides the quality of the answer from the I Ching. And you can't ask binary questions, questions that can be answered with yes or no. And I thought, oh, here we go again. Um, Again, someone who thinks that or believes that the phrasing of the question is important, and that this question decides the the answer from the I Ching. And this, I think this idea is so ridiculous, to think that a question decides how the answer from the I Ching will turn out. Because that's what he had essentially said, that if your question is not phrased properly, then the answer from the I Ching will also be murky. And I thought, oh, he did not again. I have addressed this issue several times in my courses and also on my own website in 2006. Yes, indeed, in 2006, so many years ago, I already wrote this short blog post about questioning the question. In every I Ching book that teaches you how to consult the oracle, you read the same thing. You must ask a question, and he answers that question. It is necessary to formulate that question as specific as possible. An accurate question gives an accurate answer. And that idea obviously still is being used by many I Ching users, and it's still being promoted in books and on websites. And as I said in 2006, I don't know where and when this practice of asking questions originated. All I know is that in all the old Chinese ebooks that I have read, there is no mentioning of asking a question. In the old days, you consulted the oracle not by asking a question, but by addressing a potential situation. You described in short what was going on, what elements were involved, how you got there, and then you consulted the oracle to find out how the spirits thought about all this, and if their judgment would help you to accomplish what you desired. If the spirits condemned the situation and the actions that led to it, you could try to change the course of the development and or gain approval by doing sacrifices, but you did not ask specific questions to the oracle. At the most, you asked for approval, not by asking a question, but by posing a situation you desired. Would it be that I become king? This reminds us of the charges that we find on the oracle bones. The next 10-day period, there will be no harm. And as I say in this article, and can read the rest for yourself, either by going to that link on the right or simply by pausing the video here. I think that this approach, by stating potential situation that you would like to see happening, or a wish that you would like to see fulfilled, there's a lot to say for that, because it gives you more control over your own situation, and it points to your own responsibility. in your own situation and the consequences of your actions. And this idea, I wrote this in 2006, and till till then, so far, more information has been gathered and found on how oracles work in ancient China. So this idea that oracles work by stating situations or desires, and that it's not so much a question that is being put to the oracle, that has been a topic of intense debate in the West and also in China, and maybe even between China and the West. And I want to go to over a few of the sources that I gathered quickly. This cannot be considered proper research because I just looked up for some sources that I found relevant for this video, and I want to keep this video as short as possible. I don't want to make another 1.5 hour video again, so I'll try to make it as short as possible. And this idea about questions and statements in oracles, and especially in Oracle Bones inscription, there has been quite some discussion on that. And if you want to read more about that, you can look up this dissertation, this thesis from Ke-Ying Wu, The Syntax and Semantics of Questions and Expressions of Uncertain Outcome in Old Chinese, a case study of the Oracle Bones inscriptions. And he quotes a lot of um, pro- um, proponents and opponents of this idea that the charges on Oracle Bones are not questions but are merely statements or wishes or desires. And this is what I've read in this dissertation. This is a quote from David Gately. So I'm not giving you the original source. This is actually Gately, as mentioned in this dissertation. And Gately said that he thought that's his hypothesis, that charges on the oracle bones are predictive proclamations, which Takashima refers to as the predictive proclamation theory. According to Gately, the oracle inscriptions of the Shang dynasty, the Shang people, were not questions but predictions. What they recorded were not queries, but tentative statements of intent, proclaimed to the spirits for their approval or disapproval. So this is what David Gately thought of the charges on oracle bones and how they were written down on oracle bones. Charges are a form of analogical magic which attempts to influence and control the future, as Takashima refers to this as the analogical magic theory. This theory further supports the view of charges as statements rather than questions, but from a different aspect. The fact that divinatory charges, prognostications, and verifications were not simply written on the bones or shells with a brush, but were incised with bronze knives, led Gately to believe that motivation to do this skilled and energy consuming work was not only to keep historical records. He suggests that the impulse to carve was that of magician, and that the divinations were not simply forecasting devices, but that they existed on the narrow borderland between prophecy and magic, between hypothesis, foreknowledge, and knowledge. In Gately's view, the act of divination not only forecast the future, it also helped in some magical way to induce it, and incising the inscriptions gave magical power to divination forecasts. Because the magical power associated with the incisions was meant to bring about the desired outcome, the incisions must be statements rather than questions, since only statements could report the Shang people's intention to the gods. As Gately notes, engraving a question gives no power to influence the future. So this is what David Gately thought of the charges as they were written down on oracle bones. And Um, Later on, many sources actually substantiated this idea that the charges on oracle bones are not so much questions, but statements of intent. And as we will see later, intention is actually quite important in divination. But it's not so much questions that are being phrased. Um, and that is what we can see in the examples of the oracle bones as given in Edward Shaughnessy's wonderful book, which is freely available on the internet. That's his book on the origin and early development of the Tao changes. You must read it if you're interested in the history and contents of the I Ching. Um, as he says in his book, that divination in ancient China was much less an open-ended inquiry into future events than it was a statement on the part of the diviner of what they wished to happen, hoping that the spirits would receive their prayers and bestow blessings in return. The Baoshan divination records also provide evidence for the use of another word to introduce these formulaic prayers, is what he said. You started a divination with a prayer, which contained your intention, your wish, if you want. And he's particularly focusing on one word. And let me see if because it might not be entirely clear, let me get my pencil. He's actually focusing on this word Shang in the examples from the Baoshan divination records. And here are a few examples in which he says from the Jingyi month through to the Jingyi month, coming out and going in to serve the king through to the end of the year, Shang, which he translates as would that his person not have any trouble. This character Shang is actually quite important in divination sessions. It shows intent. It's something that you desire, that you would like to see happen. So this is how statements were in divination were often written down with this character Shang, or in another way to show that there's a certain intention. And similar phrases with Shang are being found in the other examples, always translated by Shaughnessy as would that his person not have any trouble. That's a standard phrase. So, and similar uses of the word as seen in the Zhuochuan, accounts number 9 and 10, and in a slightly different form in the example of divination from the Mozi. So there are more sources that show that divination was actually a way to show and communicate your intention to the ancestors or the spirits. So that is something else than phrasing a question which ends with a question mark. And it also does not show anything about not being allowed to ask a yes or no question. So um, what is important though in this is intention. So uh, in the old examples that we have, especially as recorded in the Zhuochuan and the Guoyu, these examples don't show any preoccupation with the question and the phrasing of the question. Here are a few examples from the Zhuochuan that I quickly gathered. Early, B1 had defined by milfoil about becoming an official in Jin. So that's more or less an intention, a wish. And that is simply stated here. This is his intention. And he consulted the oracle, the Zhao Yi, and this is the answer. But there's no clear question being mentioned here. And often there are certain situations described, and then the diviner defined about this, about this topic. He simply divined about it, and not really mentioned. And not a question is not really mentioned, or at least it's not written down in the Zhuochuan. Here again, the Lord divined about this, what preceded this sentence. He defined it about this with milfoil, and all these examples show that, at least show that there is no question being recorded here. Well, you might argue that the Zhao Yi is not a book of divination. It's a book with historical anecdotes, and divination is not really the main topic of the book. So there wasn't really any need or intention to describe these divination sessions in detail as possible, as detailed as possible. And that is true. But if the question would really be as important as we intend to make it here in the West, if there really was a question and it was considered to be highly important in the same way that we make the question important here in the West, then I have no doubt that they would have recorded that question if it was really considered part of the whole divination session. And that is something that all these Western books say. Then um, I'm sure that they would have recorded that question, but there is no question mentioned here. There's a situation is being described, and then they consulted the oracle about it. And I think that is a very powerful way of using an oracle, not only the Zhao Yi, but every oracle for that matter. Um, because it shows that you are in control of the situation. You know what you want, and that desire is actually what you will try to achieve with the help of the oracle and the answers, ancestors and spirits, etc. So there are no, even in Zhouzhuan, no questions are being mentioned. So what is important though is what David Gately also already mentioned, is this idea of intention. You have a certain intention that you want to address to the oracle, and there is something that you would like to accomplish, a certain situation that you would either like to see changed or a certain result that you would like to achieve. And Edward Shaughnessy quotes um, Zhao Zhongyi um, in his book, The Origin and Early Development of the Tao Changes. And that actually talks about this. And Zhao Zhongyi said that the diviner had first to reach a decision, and only thereafter would he make a charge to the great turtle, to the oracle bones. In performing divination, the will, and Shaughnessy describes this character Zhe as intention. So Zhao Tongyi calls it the will, and Shaughnessy calls it intention. And I prefer the word intention, but I like it better than will. But they are talking about the same character and the same concept. The will or intention was a very important prerequisite. One first had to have a definite idea, and only then obtain compliance from the turtle and milfoil. From this, it can be seen that in antiquity, when the king divined, he was not at all completely basing his decisions on the report of the turtle, but was charging the turtle after his own will or intention was first determined. In other words, the human deliberation was primary. The importance of the will can be seen in this. Oh, that's the last sheet already. Oh, thank God. Um, so it's not so much about a question. It's not so much about phrasing a question, and it's not about using the right words. And you can ask any question that you want, as far as I'm concerned. Um, I'm not against asking questions to the oracle. On the contrary, questions can be very helpful because it helps you to focus on the answer from the I Ching. It helps you to um, connect the answer from the I Ching to this question and making it a little bit easier to interpret the answer, because you have to answer that question that you proposed to the oracle. If the oracle wouldn't answer that question, it would be a stupid oracle. So a question can be helpful because it helps you to narrow down the possibilities of the answer from the Tao Yi, the way it can be interpreted. The interpretation becomes narrower, and that can be helpful. But the danger is that by making it narrow, you miss certain aspects from your situation that are outside the framework of your question. So, because that is what words do. They leave things outside, and because words are limits, words set boundaries. So questions phrased in a certain sequence of words, they also put boundaries around the answer from the I Ching and about your own perception of it. So that's the danger of asking questions. And that is what I like about the early ways of consulting an oracle. It's about intention, what you want to achieve. And the answer that you get has to do with the here and now. It's not about what will happen, it tells you the current circumstances and what maybe needs to be changed to um, accomplish your intention, your desire, your wishes. And that's an entirely different way of using an oracle because it gives you way more responsibility in dealing with the answer from the I Ching. It tells you that you are in control, and all the I Ching does is give you a description or a reflection, if you want, of your current situation. That's all it does. And it is up to you to decide how you are going to deal with that information. And you have choices that you have to make when you want to interpret the answer from the I Ching, choices in the interpretation of certain aspects of the answer and how you're going to view the elements in the hexagram. There are no fixed rules. Regardless of what all these books tell you, there are no rules when it comes to using the Jiao Yi. So, and that, what I'm saying here, that asking or addressing statements, wishes to the oracle, that's not a rule either. I mean, that is what they did in ancient China, as we have seen in the examples from these sheets. Um, but it's not a rule. If you want to ask questions, fine. That if that helps you, by all means, do it. But what I don't like about all these books and websites is that they say that a good formulated question is a necessity to get a good answer from the Zhao Yi, because that is the most ridiculous statement I have ever heard. It doesn't really matter what generates the answer from the I Ching. If you call it your ancestors or the spirits or something from the universe, synchronicity, meaningful chance, I don't care. And to be honest, I couldn't care less. But do you really think that the principle behind the Zhao Yi, if there is a principle, would really let himself be controlled by something as silly as a well phrased question? Because that is manipulating the answer from the I Ching. Asking a question with the idea that the I Ching will answer that question, that's a way of manipulating the oracle and steering it in a certain direction that is not necessarily helpful. So, a question is not a necessity. You can let go of questions. You can use the Zhao Yi or any other oracle for that matter without asking questions. It's not at all a necessity. And that is actually my main point of this video. If you see someone who is saying that you must ask a question, and that question needs to be phrased in precise wordings, then you can point him to this video and show him that that is really not the case. and that there are no such fixed rules, and at least there were not that kind of rules in ancient China. So, well, this was my rant for today. Let's wrap it up, and I hope you found some meaning in this video. And if you have other thoughts on this and how you think the oracle works, or how the I Ching should be used, and your opinion on questions, etc., by all means, drop them in the comments. And looking forward to see your opinions on this. Well, I'm going to enjoy the rest of my evening. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.